Let me ask you something. When was the last time a man in your life, your father, your brother, your husband, your boyfriend, when was the last time one of them told you no? Not because he was afraid, not because he didn't have an opinion, but because he looked you in the eye, with calm certainty, and said, no. This is not what we are doing. This is not who we are. When was the last time you saw that? And for the men listening, when was the last time you did it? Not with anger, not with defensiveness, just with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who knows who he is. If you are struggling to answer that question, if that image feels foreign to you, like something out of a black and white film that doesn't apply to the world you live in, then you need to hear what I'm about to tell you. My name is Marc Hayes, and what I am going to share with you over the next 58 minutes is not a self-help speech. It is not a motivational pep talk. It is not a political rant. What this is an autopsy. An autopsy of the American man. An autopsy of the American woman. An autopsy of the American family. And a very careful examination of who, and what, did this to us. I call this philosophy Hayesism. Not because I invented all of these ideas. Not because I'm the first person to be angry about what's happened. But because for the past several years, I have spent every available hour trying to understand the machinery behind the cultural collapse we are living through. And I've arrived at conclusions that I believe deserve a name, a framework, and a very loud voice. Hayesism is the belief that modern American culture has been systematically engineered, not accidentally, not inevitably, but deliberately engineered to make men weak, women masculinized, children unruly, and families fragmented. And that this engineering began not in the 1960s, not with social media, not with any politician you love or hate, but with one man, at one moment in the early 20th century, who figured out something that would change the world forever. His name was Edward Bernays. And we're going to talk about him at length. But first, let me tell you why I care. I come from the restaurant business. I've spent most of my adult life in rooms full of people, real people, working people, people under pressure, people being judged in real time. Servers, cooks, managers, bartenders. A dining room is one of the last honest social environments left in America. You cannot fake your way through a dinner service. The room either runs or it doesn't. You either lead or you don't. You either show up or the whole thing falls apart. And what I noticed, over years and years of watching people under pressure, is that something had changed. The men coming through were different. Softer, not kinder. There's a difference between kindness and softness. Softer in the spine, unable to take correction without crumbling. Unable to give direction without apologizing for it. Quick to feel slighted. Quick to disengage. Emotionally reactive in ways that made him unreliable. And the women, I noticed something different but equally troubling. Harder, not stronger. Again, there's a difference. Harder in a way that read as compensatory. Like they had stepped into a vacuum created by the men around them and were now carrying weight that, frankly, no one should have to carry alone. Women who were exhausted not because life is hard, life is always hard, but because they were doing everything. And resenting it, and not understanding why. And the children. Let's talk about the children. Because if you want to understand the end product of all of this, the final output of a culture that has been deliberately dismantled, look at the children. Children who have been told that their feelings are facts. That discomfort is abuse. That waiting is optional. That authority is inherently suspect. Children who rule the household not because their parents failed to love them, but because their parents were never taught what love actually requires. Which is structure, boundaries, the word no. I watched this in dining rooms. I watched it in my personal life. I watched it in the news, in social media, in the way people talk to each other, or refuse to. And I kept asking myself, how did we get here? Because this didn't happen overnight. This is not a generational accident. This is architecture, so I went looking for the architect. After World War II, the United States entered a period of extraordinary economic expansion. The manufacturing base that had been built to win the war was now available for consumer production. There were goods to sell. Lots of them. Cars, televisions, refrigerators, washing machines, processed food, cigarettes, alcohol, pharmaceuticals, clothing, furniture. The supply was there. The question was, how do you manufacture the demand? The answer was the advertising industry, which, using Bernays as its intellectual godfather, developed into one of the most sophisticated psychological manipulation machines in human history. And the primary product of that machine, the thing it sold above all other things, was dissatisfaction. Think about that. The engine of American commerce is not satisfaction. It is not contentment. It is not the meeting of genuine needs. It is the systematic creation of dissatisfaction, and then the sale of products as the cure. You are not thin enough. Buy this diet product. You are not young enough. Buy this cream. Your house is not big enough. Your car is not fast enough. Your teeth are not white enough. Your children are not stimulated enough. Your life is not exciting enough. Your relationships are not passionate enough. You are not enough, but you can be, if you buy this thing. Now here is where this connects directly to what has happened to men, to women, and to families. The post-war advertising machine made a very deliberate decision about who its primary target would be. It chose women. Specifically, it chose the American housewife, because she was the one making most of the household purchasing decisions. If you could reach her, you could move product. And to reach her, you needed to make her feel inadequate. So for 2 decades, the 50s and 60s, the advertising industry sold women a very specific message: your value lies in your domestic perfection. Your flaws must shine. Your children must be immaculate. Your husband must be satisfied. Your casseroles must be extraordinary. And if they are not, there is a product for that. This was its own form of manipulation. But here's what happened next, and this is where the story gets genuinely diabolical. In the late 1960s and into the 1970s, a new commercial opportunity arose. Feminism, real feminism, the genuine article, the movement for equal rights, for equal pay, for equal legal standing, was a legitimate and necessary moral project. But the advertising industry did to feminism exactly what Bernays had done to women and cigarettes in 1929. It hijacked it. It reframed liberation as consumerism. It sold independence as a brand. "You've come a long way, baby," said a cigarette ad. The woman who can have it all, the career, the family, the perfect body, the designer clothes, the thriving social life. Buy this product and you are liberated. Buy this product and you are powerful. Buy this product and you are free. The message to women shifted from "you must be a perfect housewife" to "you must be a perfect everything." The standard did not lower. It doubled. Women were now expected to be excellent in the boardroom and in the kitchen. To be sexual and maternal. To be powerful and nurturing. To be independent and in relationship. And if you could not do all of those things simultaneously, there was a product for that, too. Now what does all of this do to men? Something that I don't think gets discussed nearly enough. As the commercial culture repositioned women as independent economic actors, as consumers in their own right, as workers, as earners, the implicit message to men was equally powerful: you are no longer necessary. Or at minimum, you are no longer sufficient. The things you were built to provide, protection, provision, stability, direction, these things can now be purchased. Or replaced. Or done without. And men, who had not been taught to process that message, who had not been given a cultural framework for understanding or responding to it, men did what people do when they feel displaced and unneeded. They retreated. They checked out. They found other places to feel adequate. Video games, pornography, substances, passivity. The commercial machine was delighted. Because passive, retreated men who feel inadequate are extraordinary consumers. You can sell them supplements. You can sell them equipment. You can sell them entertainment. You can sell them a version of masculinity that comes in a bottle or a subscription. And so the weakness of men became, in and of itself, a product line. I want to talk about the children. Because everything I've described, the weakened man, the exhausted woman, the dismantled family, has a final output. And that output is sitting in your living room, telling you what to watch, refusing to eat vegetables, and having a meltdown because they were asked to wait 15 minutes. The child who rules the household is not a new phenomenon. There have always been indulgent parents. There have always been spoiled children. But the scale of what we are seeing now is historically unprecedented. And it is not because parents today love their children more than parents in previous generations. It is because parents today have been taught a set of ideas about children, sold to them, again, by commercial culture, that has systematically disabled their ability to parent. Let me trace this. In the 20th century, the field of psychology, which had enormous and largely legitimate insights to offer about human development, was commercialized. Its ideas were simplified, distorted, and packaged for mass consumption by a media and publishing industry that needed content. And the simplified version of psychological wisdom that reached most American parents went something like this: your child's emotional experiences are paramount. Your child's self-esteem must be protected at all costs. Discipline that involves frustration, disappointment, or the word no is potentially traumatizing. Your job as a parent is to ensure that your child feels good. This is not what developmental psychology actually says. Any serious child psychologist will tell you that frustration tolerance, the ability to experience disappointment, delay gratification, and continue functioning, is one of the single most important predictors of adult success and mental health. It is built, precisely, by not getting everything you want when you want it. By being told no, by experiencing the natural consequences of your behavior. But that is a hard sell. That does not move product. What moves product is, your child deserves the best. Your child is special. Your child's needs come first. And if your child is struggling, there is a program for that. A therapy for that. A diagnosis for that. A medication for that. The pathologization of normal childhood is one of the great crimes of the commercial era. Boys who are energetic have ADHD. Children who are anxious, often because they have been raised in homes without structure, are given anxiety diagnoses and accommodations that insulate them further from the discomfort they desperately need to learn to tolerate. Children who are bored, who are understimulated, who are desperately craving real engagement with the world, are handed screens. And the screens. Let us talk about the screens. Because the technology industry has done to children what the tobacco industry did to women in 1929. It found the deepest, most powerful psychological levers available, the need for social belonging, for novelty, for validation, for stimulation, and it built machines designed to exploit those levers without limit. And it sold access to those machines to parents who were too exhausted, too isolated, too stripped of community and extended family support, to recognize what was happening. A child who has been raised on screens, who has been shielded from frustration, who has never been told no by a father with a quiet spine, that child does not know how to be in the world. That child arrives in adulthood with extraordinary fragility, with an inability to tolerate disagreement, with a desperate hunger for external validation, with no framework for sacrifice, for service, for delayed gratification, for anything that doesn't arrive instantly and feel immediately good. And the commercial machine, which is always watching, always waiting, is absolutely ready for that child. It has built an entire economy around servicing infinite neediness. Streaming on demand, delivery on demand, validation on demand, identity on demand. You can be whoever you want, as long as you keep purchasing. The child who rules the day is not a brat. The child who rules the day is a victim of a system that needed him broken, needed her dependent, needed them both to grow up into consumers who cannot tolerate a single unmet desire without reaching for a product to fix it. So now you understand the diagnosis. And I want to be clear. This is not a comfortable diagnosis. This is not the kind of thing you can hear and walk away feeling good about the world. If you have been paying attention for the last 40-odd minutes, you are probably sitting somewhere between anger and despair. That is the right reaction. Hold on to that. Because what Hayesism is built on, the philosophical core of everything I am offering, is the insistence that accurate diagnosis is the beginning of healing. You cannot fix what you will not name. And the reason so many people are suffering in the way that they are suffering, silently, confusedly, medicating themselves with substances and screens and shopping, is that they have been deliberately prevented from naming what is wrong with them. They have been given 100 individual explanations for a collective problem. You have depression, you have anxiety, you have attachment issues, you have low self-esteem, you have hormonal imbalance, you have a social media addiction, you have relationship trauma. Some of those things may be true, but they are all downstream of something bigger. And that something bigger is this: you live in a culture that was deliberately engineered to make you feel inadequate, to manufacture desires you would not naturally have, to sever you from the sources of genuine meaning, community, family, faith, purpose, the patient building of something that lasts, and then to sell you commercial substitutes for all of those things. Hayesism names that, loudly, without apology, but naming it is only step one. Because Hayesism is not a complaint. It is not a grievance. It is not nostalgia for some imaginary perfect past. It is a framework for reclamation. Here is what Hayesism asks of men. It asks you to understand that your weakness is not organic. It was cultivated. The passivity, the avoidance, the defensiveness, the retreat into screens and pornography and substances, these are not character flaws. They are the predictable result of a culture that spent 50 years systematically stripping masculine identity of its dignity and then selling it back to you in palatable, commercial, castrated forms. Hayesism says, recognize that. And then, reject it. Backlash. Not with the performative aggression of men who have convinced themselves that cruelty is strength. With something much harder and much more powerful, quiet, patient, unshakable self-discipline. The willingness to do the difficult thing. To say the true thing. To hold the standard even when it is easier to let it go. The man that Hayesism calls you to become is not a relic. He is not the caricature of 1950s patriarchy. He is something much more nuanced and much more demanding. He is a man who has looked at the machinery of his own domestication and chosen, consciously and deliberately, to opt out. Who understands that his strength, his real strength, the kind that cannot be purchased, is the thing that the people around him most desperately need. His children need it. They need a father who will not be moved by a tantrum. Who will not renegotiate a consequence because the discomfort is painful to watch. Who will sit in the room with his child's frustration and say, I know this is hard. I am not going anywhere. And we are not changing the standard. His partner needs it, whatever form that partnership takes. Not dominance, not control, but presence, reliability, the sense that there is someone in this house who has a spine. Who has thought about the values this family will live by. Who will not be reshaped by every cultural wind that blows through. Here is what Hayesism asks of women. It asks you to have the courage to question whether what you have been sold as liberation actually feels like liberation. Not to ask that question defensively. Not to arrive at any predetermined answer. But to genuinely sit with it. Does the life you are living, the one that was designed for you by the advertising industry, by Hollywood, by the social media algorithm, does it feel like freedom? Does it feel like it is drawing on the deepest, most powerful parts of who you are? Or does it feel like you are running on a treadmill that keeps getting faster, toward a destination that keeps receding? Hayesism does not tell you to give up your career. It does not tell you to give up your ambitions. It tells you to stop letting a commercial culture define what ambition means. To stop accepting the premise that the only version of female power worth having is the one that looks like male power in expensive shoes. The woman who chooses to pour her intelligence and her creativity and her relentless energy into raising children who become extraordinary human beings, that woman is not losing. She is doing something that no amount of corporate achievement can replicate. And the culture that has convinced her otherwise, that has told her that career is noble and motherhood is a detour, that culture does not love her. That culture has found a way to profit from her insecurity. Hayesism says, your nurturing instinct is not weakness. It is power. And the world is desperately hungry for it. And here is what Hayesism asks of parents. Both of you. It asks you to love your children enough to disappoint them. To understand that every time you cave, every time the discomfort of watching your child struggle is more powerful than your commitment to the growth, you are not protecting them. You are crippling them. You are sending them one more message in a culture already saturated with the message. You cannot tolerate difficulty. You cannot handle the truth. You need to be shielded from the world. Hayesism says, the greatest thing you can give your child is the confidence that comes from having survived something hard. From having been told no and lived through it. From having failed and been loved anyway. From having a father with a spine and a mother with wisdom and a home with standards that do not shift with the weather. I want to close with something simple. Hayesism is not a cult. It is not a movement with a flag and a march. It does not require you to subscribe to anything, to buy anything, to affiliate with any political party or any tribe. It requires only one thing from you. Clarity. The willingness to look at your life, your actual life, the one you are living right now, and ask, is this mine? Did I choose this, or was it chosen for me, piece by piece, by a machine that needed me to stay confused, stay inadequate, stay consuming, stay afraid? Because the moment you can ask that question with genuine honesty, the moment you stop accepting the manufactured version of your desires and start asking what you actually want, what you actually value, what kind of person you actually intend to be, that moment, right there, is the beginning of everything. Edward Bernays spent a century building a machine designed to keep you from having that moment. To intercept your clarity before it could form. To fill every silence with noise, every emptiness with a product, every question with a distraction. Hayesism is the refusal to be intercepted. It is the decision to sit in the silence. To tolerate the emptiness long enough to find out what is actually there. To ask the hard questions about yourself and your family and your culture, not because it is comfortable, but because nothing that lasts was ever built on comfort. You were not designed to be a consumer. You were designed to be a builder. A protector, a creator, a parent, a leader, a member of a community that extends through time, backward to your ancestors and forward to your children and their children. The machine wants you to forget that. It needs you to forget that. Because a person who remembers it, a man who stands up straight, a woman who knows her worth, a parent who holds the line, a child who is taught that life is not a menu, that person is not a good customer. But they are a great human being. My name is Marc Hayes. This is Hayesism, and this is just the beginning.